right, we should have audio.
Bang,
Should
bang.
be good.
Absolutely.
Let us know in the chat if there's anything weird going on. This is our first live.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel. Like I'm excited,
I'm nervous.
a little nervous.
I'd be lying to you if I told you I wasn't.
I'm shifting.
Hey, chill out.
Yeah,
All right.
but at the same time I feel good because this has been coming for a long time.
Absolutely.
Like trying to get all the angles and everything. I mean, we're gonna be even trying to do some live editing
That
and
was
seeing
like
it. It's crazy.
everybody who I knew who reached out after the last podcast was like, y'all got so many angles. I was like, that's what you took from the whole. You've been asking me about AI for months. That's what you took from the conversation. Yeah, we'll get to that. But y'all got a lot of good angles. Is this professionally produced?
Bro, it's about the angles. It's
always
about the
about
angle.
the
Look at that.
angles.
Look.
I
And
get
it's just it goes
I'm
back
telling
and forth like that.
Seamless.
You know how surprisingly not difficult it was to get
Yeah.
this set? I'm gonna tell you the barrier to entry is just honestly the equipment.
Yeah.
Getting all the equipment set up and then understanding how just everything works together without overheating.
Oh, the more you explain, the barrier seems like it's raising, but I feel you. I understand, dog.
It's the whole thing. All right. So we got the chat. We should be able to see you all if you have anything to say or have any questions live. We have you all up on the screen. Today we're going to be talking about blockchain and crypto, its relevance, effect on humanity, et cetera, and just kind of have an open discussion about it since there's been so much that's been going on in the crypto landscape, in the blockchain landscape over the past couple years, you know, with everyone being closed in and how everything spiked and then how everything kind of didn't spike, the opposite of a spike, we'll just say crash, and where things are now because there's obviously not as much buzz.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll go ahead and leave it open to you.
Well, first, before we even get started, I'll tell you that quick thing to get us started off on a positive note. Last week we talked about AI, so I got with my therapist on Thursday, and he's just like, I'm doing this exercise where I write out at the end of the day what I'm grateful of, and I've been doing that for some time. Just get my thoughts out, helps me sleep better. And he said, well, what do you think about taking inventory at the beginning of the day? I said, well, I've just never thought about that. He goes, all right, well, put together some words. And then as a result of it, he said, don't just do it at night, but it'll help you like kind of gauge, are you waking up this way? Are things happening? And it helps you get perspective. So on top of the words, I've been feeding Midjourney the words I've been feeling in response that I wake up each morning. So the pictures that you, like those who follow me on my personal page have been seeing from Midjourney are direct replications of the therapy work that I've been doing. So, yeah.
Like a AI generated gratitude photo album?
Absolutely. That is exactly what it is. And it's not all gratitude. It's not all gratitude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought that's what I heard, gratitude.
Yeah, well, that's all.
But it's everything.
Oftentimes, that's what it is. I find, especially sometimes the later in the day I get to it, the better those or more polished those pictures come out. Like the one I posted yesterday was a result of me having all my nieces and nephews around me. So like, and I've kind of fallen in love with like Gundam style robots as like the canvas that pushes everything out as a result. So it was like a big old robot with a whole bunch of little like baby robots and kids around them. Like it was dope. So ways to use this technology to give, because I'm the worst visual artist you'll ever see in your life. But being able to put these words to things and make represented, like even like going through the Midjourney prompts and like refreshing, refreshing, and be able to change it, I'm actually able to see a little deeper into how I feel based on the pictures that it gives me back. So it's kind of dope.
That's really cool, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I like that a lot.
Window open? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, you can crack a window. It's fine if you want.
I'm always down with air.
It's funny for those that don't know, Midjourney is this kind of, you know, the Stable Diffusion AI. If you want to see the AI episode, look like last week. But that is a really cool idea, actually. I heard a very cool use case, kind of similar, of using it to compose like novels as comics and things like that. Very specific, like key moments, and then stringing them together. I actually think that's pretty cool, using it for short stories and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've been trying to get rap lyrics too to see how Midjourney interprets rap lyrics into things. It's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
But back to the topic. So we're talking crypto. We're gonna talk a little NFT, but we can't discuss any of those things without discussing the baseline technology behind it all. So I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked you at the beginning of each podcast. Explain blockchain technology to me, like I was a 5-year-old.
Okay. It's like, I know you've said that, and I know you said you were going to ask me this, but every time, it's an interesting challenge.
Fair.
I think that blockchain in and of itself, right? We'll give them the host view. So blockchain is simply just this way of kind of distributing how we validate identity and distribute value. What you often see blockchain associated to is cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Right? Like, a lot of people find Bitcoin synonymous with blockchain. But blockchain technology, the thing like I was really interested in, and we'll get into that, but is kind of just this distributed mechanism of coming to a conclusion, coming to consensus over what is real, what data is real when you have these, instead of one giant system that a company may control, then you have this data in that company's, control and jurisdiction. You distribute that to many different jurisdictions. But when you do that, you have the complex problem of understanding, okay, what's really true, because one system may have different data than the other, et cetera, right? So you need a mechanism for consensus, which is a large part of what blockchain seeks to solve. In that sense, it's very much so like kind of this distributed database of sorts. And then you have the modern applications of blockchain, right? Which manifests in various forms, one of them being cryptocurrency and all of those things. But then you also have the kind of the private blockchain, and a bunch of us have this whole concept of decentralized applications that interact with the blockchain and enable people to be able to trade currency, of course, or to build these kind of decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, like for a while. It's a lot of cool stuff. But if I was explaining it to a 5-year-old, I would probably just tell them, hey, we used to keep everything in one place. We figured out that wasn't good, so we tried to spread that out.
Yeah, honestly, when you say it like that, it makes perfect sense. It's like that 5-year-old, mommy or daddy, they know everything when you're 5 years old, right? Like, they're the one, they know when you brush your teeth last, they know what snacks you ate that day. But so there's one single source of truth. And the way that I kind of envision it, based on you talking about those distributed or decentralized, is just spreading out the source of truth. But the technology is what allows everybody to come to consensus. The technology allows it so that my truth is not different than your truth. We can verify it, opposed to having the one central authority figure. In cryptocurrency situations, it's the bank. In healthcare situations, it's hospitals and those other medical records. Having the technology be the proof of authority or security, opposed to having one central location that says, you're right because we said so.
Yeah, that's really valid. I always talk about trust when I talk about blockchain, because if you think about like us as a society, the mechanisms we use for trust now, you think about an example like a bank, right? And that's a very common example used in the crypto space. But you can also think of like insurance providers, things like that. People that keep these records and keep track of something you hold valuable. With banks, it's money, right? And they keep all these records and they're control of all of those systems. Well, there are issues that come into play when one single third party has all the control over a particular thing. So there's not as much transparency. Blockchain seeks to provide that transparency in a secure way. And I think trust really is at the root of it. It's how do we facilitate trust between multiple entities so that the people that use the software that's being built on top of these things can be trustworthy.
Absolutely.
Right? Because, we all use banks, but that doesn't mean we trust the banks. Right? And I do like that idea. I think that idea is cool. I think what it should be versus what it is a little different. like I like the idea of blockchain and cryptocurrency potentially as part of that, enhancing the third party. I like the idea of taking a bank or even an energy company or whatever these core units of human value that we talk about, and using blockchain to enhance those items so that we as the consumers can have more insight into what's happening, fighting for, right? Like, and is it worth it? Is it worth it? Now, for the people, to give you a little bit of additional context, I was working at an energy company when I really first had to apply blockchain technology to a real problem.
Yeah.
So when I went deep into blockchain, I was looking at it through the lens of a real enterprise wanting to utilize blockchain. Oh, look like we got a question in the chat.
Well, it looks like it's an audio issue.
Oh, the
that we're
audio sounds
potentially
low.
not too
Let me
low.
see. What about now? Should be a little bit better.
But it's definitely reading through the
Oh, see,
reading through that.
now
way.
it's red though.
Just a little bit.
I'll turn it up a little bit there. There we go. We're in the yellow a little bit. Test yours real quick.
Test.
Yeah, we're in the close to the yellow now.
Gotcha. I just have to use my
Tiny
big boy
bit.
voice.
So when I was working at this company trying to see how do we actually apply blockchain, I wasn't thinking eradication of the third party. I was thinking how do we enhance the third party.
Absolutely.
So working at an energy company, the idea in my head that I thought was really interesting at the time was energy is kind of this just resource in and of itself that represents a lot of value.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, what if we could map some sort of cryptocurrency to the consumption and production of energy, and then energy kind of becomes a new age gold standard of sorts. Was the general idea. And what that project ended up turning into was, hey, how do we utilize blockchain potentially between multiple energy companies to help facilitate people at the edge who use solar technology to produce energy and then sell back to these energy companies?
Yep.
How do we actually help and use blockchain to facilitate that interaction, right? These prosumers, quote unquote, these people who produce energy, and then the consumers, the people that consume. So that was my first interaction really with building something that was blockchain oriented. And I remember at the time we were building it using, it was actually IBM's Hyperledger Fabric, I think it was. It was like, man, that's a throwback, right? But we also did experiments with Ethereum, and Ethereum had kind of this private chain, and we did a lot of work around smart contracts. And I really love the idea of a smart contract, which is something that lives on the chain, right? An independent unit kind of that can deliberate a set of rules between two entities.
Okay.
So we can decide together, hey, what does this thing mean? What does it mean for our negotiation to be true? We program that, we put that out, and now we can both interact with this smart contract in a way that ensures, without the need for a third party, that things will be executed appropriately.
Gotcha.
So that was really cool. All these concepts were really cool.
Now, to that point, and you touched on smart contracts being built on top of blockchain, and we have a whole segment where we'll dig deeper into that. But to my knowledge, that whole smart contract system is where the basis of NFT work came from, right? That you could have media, you could have some form of data to add to the blockchain, but based on those agreements that you and the party consuming it have, certain things will carry out based on it. So if I produce music or a piece of digital art, like what's going crazy in the NFT space right now, and I sell it to you for $1, then if you sell it, I might receive percentages based on all other transactions going forward. Different things like that might give the originator or creator of the content certain securities in the event that it's resold. Is that also in that same lane of a smart contract as well?
Yes. So really these things are conceptually broken down. These smart contracts, everything is kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Still called a token of sorts.
Understood.
Right? The NFT just stands for non-fungible token, which means you can't change it. But then the smart contracts are like these changeable, redeployable tokens of sorts that contain instructions within them. But they're all deployed on the chain as tokens.
Understand.
Then there's also the currency token, which you can create more of, and that's what people are really much more familiar with.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's always the big one, because me and you always joke. I have my running theme. If your barber or your hairstylist is telling you about a new cryptocurrency or a new stock that needs to be bought, you're too late at that point, right? Yeah. And oftentimes, especially in our community, people kind of run into these situations. Oh, I want to get rich. Oh, Dogecoin's going to the moon. Oh, all these things. And it can give the technology a bad rap as a result, which is why I think the title of this episode is so fitting. And I'll pose the next question to that point. Is crypto itself, now that we understand the technology behind it, is crypto itself still relevant?
Oh man, that is really frustrating. The whole conversation. I think that crypto will still be relevant for a good amount of time.
Okay.
But I think that relevant, we should probably define it. Like, I think it'll be relevant in the sense that people will still use it as a way to make money and exchange value. But in the ways that I think blockchain could actually change things, I feel like crypto, at least the not good parts of crypto, because I have seen good parts in crypto, but the not good parts of crypto scream so much louder. And it's really turned into this scam type thing where you have people just promising other people that, hey, take $30, $50, turn it into 100,000 or a million or whatever by putting your money into this very weird coin that no one heard about until yesterday.
Yep.
And you have a lot of people in the crypto space, these whales, right, that have so much of crypto, and a lot of those people, not all of them, right, a group of, even you don't even need a large group of them, honestly. A couple of them can organize these scams where they can make a ton of money and then pull out and leave everybody else in a lurch.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why a lot of technologists, at least the ones I've talked to, don't really like crypto. It's not that they don't think blockchain is pretty cool, right? They can see maybe that the blockchain is cool, but they don't like the predatory nature of going after these people who don't have much with the hopes of getting rich with these coins, right? Not encouraging them to invest wisely, right? Just encouraging them to go for it all. Essentially gambling is what it feels like. And for folks that don't have a lot, that $20, $30, $50, $100, $1,000, that's life-changing money.
Absolutely.
Right? And when I was young, that was a completely life-changing money. It's the difference between rent and not making rent. And so these people have their lives dramatically affected. And I have a big problem with that. Like, I had an NFT project and I really liked it. And I actually, because I liked Cardano, I went and I was start learning Haskell, is the programming language that they use for smart contracts and everything. And I did this project and it was really cool. It's on my GitHub. You guys can look at it. It's like I open sourced it. And I worked with an artist and paid them and did all this stuff. But then I started realizing that people were looking at this like an investment opportunity. I didn't like that. Like, I mean, the people ask me like, hey, can I make money with this? I'd be like, I mean, you can, yeah, but I like the side of NFTs when you're buying something because you like the artist or you like, the people, the project. I wasn't buying NFTs because I viewed them as legitimate investments. I understood it was a gimmick to make money for a short amount of time.
But people do that with physical art too, man. That's like that's why NFTs were this craze, because the best example that I'd ever received was if an artist sells a painting and then passes, I think we talked about last week, passes the day after, their family will never see another dollar off it. So being able to use NFTs as a way to bargain in certain things or contracts as a result to your media would be large. In the world, when it comes to physical art, that's just a large way to transfer and hide wealth. It comes in the art game. Okay, well, you say that's worth 10,000. Well, my appraiser says it's worth 100 million. So guess what? My net worth is this, and I qualify for other things as a result of the possessions I own. And now, instead of having people who just have that gap, we have a way to kind of affirm and discuss and solidify that via the blockchain that we discussed earlier. I think a really interesting point on top of that is it's like a dual-sided coin, because to your point, people are preying on those who are looking for the come up. And then I also believe the government, woo buzzword, is allowing things to happen so that they can demonize it when they choose to. They can push it away. Well, and that's what they tried to do when it first started. Oh, Bitcoin's used on the dark web to buy drugs and organs and all these ridiculous things. Yeah. And instead of like, because they couldn't regulate it, instead of focusing on the positive things that it can do to transform the society that they govern over. So from that, do you find that one leans heavier than the other as far as the way people view blockchain, that people are more terrified of it because of what media may say about it, or what the thought process on it is, or because they know somebody who bought a billion of this coin and lost it all, and it's kind of get like that stock market type feel to it?
I think it's both. I think that I've seen both, like people who are afraid to interact with crypto because they've seen people lose a lot of money, just as many people that want to do crypto because they've seen people make a lot of money. And I want to be clear too that like in the NFT space, I love when it's real artists making amazing things.
Absolutely.
And monetizing their work with NFTs. I love that.
That's what we talked about last week. Like throwing stuff at the wall because you could do it in mass and hoping it works.
And I think that is fantastic. What I don't like is for every one of those genuine people doing that and monetizing their work that way, there's 100 whack projects
a whole bunch of
that are scams and trying to, like that's the piece that I don't like. I think that there's a lot of good in blockchain. But the people that are just trying to use it to abuse people is really messing it up. And from the government side, the government just fears stuff they can't really regulate. Yeah. So I think it's more so just fear of something like the government banks on centralization.
Exactly.
So you're talking about something that decentralizes things. I don't like that. I think that's the instinct. I don't like that. I can't control. It's much harder to control something that's decentralized.
Well, you know that we here in America, America's coming with their own cryptocurrency. They're coming with FedCoin.
Yeah, I believe it.
And that's gonna be a way. I haven't done too much digging into FedCoin itself, but just looking at it, a central bank cryptocurrency. Now, like I mentioned before, I work for the world's fourth largest bank. And these are discussions that they have at every single level, mainly because security is becoming a very large issue. Over the past 2 years, there's been multiple countries that have significantly sanctioned the way that their country's data is being used and kept, and complete efforts are shifting around millions of dollars to make sure that we can appease different lanes and stay where we need to stay from a federal regulation point. So something like a Fed coin, I believe, which is why you get into conspiracy land, of that heavily regulation, or we can't regulate it, so we'll ostracize it. And then once everybody's down on it, we'll say, hey, don't worry. We can use it, but use ours.
Yeah, but that's just centralization.
Oh, absolutely.
And China did the same thing. Like China already released their coin, and they did. Like I'm pretty sure it was a bit. I don't remember the date, but if you look it up, you'll see like they created a government crypto, and it's just essentially a replacement for money. It feels like, in a way for a government to track their citizens more.
The digital yuan.
It's nuts. Like it's already happening, right? Because they don't want this rogue cryptocurrency. So let's make our own. Make people use it for everything, and it's something that we control.
And to that point, right now we've talked about NFTs, cryptocurrency, and because the world has reopened, I don't feel like it's as heavy or as crazy of a thing to like kind of dismiss sometimes. Like I'm not using Bitcoin to go to the store or go buy gas or whatever cryptocurrency in that point, right? But when the world was closed and everything shut down and you couldn't log on to Instagram or TikTok or YouTube without Web3 just popping up at this new digital world. You'll never step outside again. It's nasty and you'll get sick out there, but you can do everything you need to from right here. And it kind of felt like blockchain and crypto was going to unlock the Web3 space. What is the interaction between the two? Like I said, the three: blockchain, crypto, and Web3 as a whole.
My understanding of Web3 as a whole is really just a world based on these decentralized. We got some people in the chat.
Yeah.
I'll give a quick shout out. We got Jayla Hankins. Appreciate you for letting us know the sound thing. Everyone else is being quiet, so thank you. Just J-Fire thinking about this because the markets seem very volatile. Yes, they are. They probably will be forever, for a while at least.
Absolutely.
But people make money in volatile markets and they lose money in volatile markets. So
That's facts.
And then Pops, we got people are afraid of what they can't control or just don't understand. Very true. And crypto confuses a lot of people.
Absolutely.
It definitely does. Crypto can be very confusing. And I think there's a large barrier to entry to actually really understanding how it works and its limitations. But back to the question about how Web3 all works. How I describe Web3 is like, hey, we have these apps that we use day to day, right? And now they're saying the web is going to be made up of these decentralized apps, and all applications are going to be running and connecting and talking to the blockchain to facilitate all of our day-to-day interactions. It's really not that complex. Like people say Web3. I read something on Web5 not too long ago. Like it's a buzzword to just talk about a world where these applications are operating in a decentralized manner instead of talking to these private systems.
Gotcha.
But in reality, we'll still have those private systems. We'll just decentralize certain aspects of it. Like when I was building these, I guess they were quote unquote dApps. It was really just, hey, we still have these normal interactions.
Pause.
Oh, go ahead.
Explain that word, that.
Decentralized application.
Gotcha.
So we have regular applications and we have decentralized applications. So when I was building these decentralized applications, all I'm doing is I'm still facilitating a normal user interaction, like any app you would log in to do on your phone.
Yep.
And if it was data specifically about you, I would still store that in a normal application type, like database and stuff like that. But as soon as there was an exchange of value that happened between two entities, right, I had to track who you were on the blockchain, who that person was on the blockchain, and then what was, if there's any smart contracts involved, what was going to be executed between these two people using my application. And that was, in essence, a decentralized app. But it's not really, they make it sound so much more this is stuff that annoys me about about like crypto.
I thought it was supposed to be like 12 hours a day in like Oculus sets. Like that, is that not Web3?
No, that's part of it. People talk about that, like
I bought a
VR
house
is part
next
of
to Snoop
it and
Dogg.
everything is blockchain. Yeah, you bought a house and it's really an NFT and it's on the blockchain and all of that. But I mean, it's still a normal app that just interacts with the blockchain.
Gotcha.
That is... There's nothing so revolutionary about it. It just incorporates some crypto. And the APIs are really terrible, so you have to, for most of these cryptocurrencies. So, yeah, you have to dive a little deeper and really build a lot more abstractions than you would. And working on integrating all that, because at least when I was doing it, it was so new that there wasn't a lot of just common standards around it. So, yeah, there's a lot of work to do around that. But, yeah, Web3 encompasses so many things, VR, AR, all these decentralized apps, these, holographic cities where, like you said, our neighbor Snoop Dogg, like influencers creating these things, all of this stuff that really doesn't matter in the context of Web3. I think the core idea you should take away from it, and anyone watching should just take away from it, is, hey, we went from these apps that just use these private systems, and we're trusting these companies that own these private systems, to now we can outsource key aspects of these applications, like a transaction between two people, buying, exchanging something, instead of using, those payment processors like Stripe, just credit card processors and stuff like that. You can use a blockchain for that.
Copy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it is those other things, but I'm just like, I feel like people don't hear this part
No,
of it
never.
enough.
Absolutely never.
Like they always hear the other stuff, and yeah, AR, VR, all that stuff. It is, but it's not. It's not magic.
I was gonna go virtual bowling. That's all I kept seeing on my social media. Is just like, hey, come on and play pool with your friends. I'm
Virtual
like,
bowling.
don't leave the house. I think they just capitalized at a time where a lot of people were vulnerable. A lot of people had extra income because of them stimuluses,
Yeah.
and they just poured it right into these NFT projects and these cryptocurrency projects,
Yeah.
and without knowing the understanding behind it. Just a big takeaway is for people just to make sure they're doing the research. This is similar to, but not the same, because people will often equate the crypto market to the stock market. But if you were to make any investments into the stock market, you would probably want to know what that company does, what the purpose of that company being around is, who's running that company, what separates them from other ones, before making any type of large jumps into those things. But with crypto, a lot of people don't understand the technology behind it, let alone what their purpose is on building on top of the technology. So do your research.
Yeah, definitely do your research and figure out how much you're willing to lose. That's just be willing to lose whatever you put in to crypto at any point. I mean, any investment really, but the interest. I actually think gaming's a really awesome application of crypto.
Okay.
I think it can be really cool because people have been playing games and then getting access to items and selling them on other markets for a while. Yeah, like you got to dive deep into like the nerd games.
Yeah.
Like I think it was oh man,
because we're not talking
wanna
like
say,
regular Fortnite. I feel like
World of Warcraft, League, games like that, like these, those types of games that will have items. And I'm not deep into those games, so comment or drop in the chat if you know specific examples. But I was reading specifically about this where you have these games, they get specific items, and then they sell access to those items.
Oh wow.
And sometimes it's thousands of dollars. So, if a game's loot is that rare, then you end up in a situation,
That be my question, dog. Absolutely all the time. People be buying these weird looking apes and all these different stuff. Art is meant to be appreciated. And I view those same World of Warcraft loots the same because there's an audience that wants to see it. It's you having something for yourself is only but so dope until you can go, hey man, check this out. And they go, ooh. But when you am I showing somebody my phone? Like, what is the future of when it comes to like NFTs? Am I gonna have like a big old like TV in my house that just displays like my NFTs? Like I've seen like I think Samsung has like a picture frame television, which is like it looks like a picture frame, but is that where that type of artistry would go?
I've seen some really interesting stuff with this actually. They do have those picture frames, like you can get NFT picture frames, but they also have like these art galleries, NFT art galleries. Like you can pay for a curated NFT art gallery for all the NFTs that you have, and then people can walk through virtually your art gallery of all the NFTs you own. And there's a bunch of work around that. Like I think even going into like, this is my digital NFT house. The art gallery in itself is an NFT. The house is an NFT. You can walk through, see other things that I own, like real digital assets, things like that.
That makes sense.
But it's all like, in the gaming space, it just makes a lot of sense. I think it could be really cool, really innovative, actually have a real economy that you can track, and they don't have to go to off game markets, right? It can all be kind of tracked within a game. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
and you said that's already happening, you're saying, right?
yeah, a lot of this stuff, a lot of it's in the works and happening. I don't think there's extremely mainstream games.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are games that are doing
They don't want to see my like Kobe Bryant or my like Steve Francis 2003 my player rookie card that I have. That
I don't think they care.
That's
I don't
fair.
think they care.
Steve was cold though. I asked that question specifically. If I was, I am a regular person. How is a regular person feeling blockchain in their life currently? Maybe they don't know it's there. Maybe, but are they at this point in time? Because we've talked previously about how maybe they may have AI that's already a part of their life, but they have no idea it's a part of their life. Any blockchain instances?
I mean, I walked into the gas station, I saw a Bitcoin ATM.
That's lit. Yeah, facts.
I see those from time to time, and that's all right, I guess. Other than that,
Confused me.
I don't think so, and that is what's annoying to me because there are so many things in real life that would benefit from blockchain technology. I even think how like we do real estate transactions and how we do a bunch of things that could really benefit from blockchain, but the problem at that point is you start to play a political game.
Yeah.
So you have to change laws that have been around forever because blockchain does things that these certain processes do not like.
Yeah, and I think of it the same way from a medical record standpoint. Have you ever tried to get like medical records from a different state or a hospital, or like school records? You ever have to call your high school to get a transcript? It's ridiculous. Why is that not stored somewhere? Like, and these are the types of instances, just old data that is clearly stored somewhere because y'all got to go get it. Why is that just not readily available? How is there not a way? And that's the type of things that I see blockchain really being of great use for, because that helps insurance companies process claims faster. That helps medical professionals diagnose and get things faster because they're not waiting on previous records coming from out of state. I watch House. I know how long that takes. But like, these are but you make a good point that until regulation changes to allow data to be kept in these different ways, or somebody just jumps out and wants to be the disruptor. We hear that word all the time in the blockchain and crypto space. I think it kind of terrifies the general population because just like, we're going to disrupt this industry. And it's like, well, but it's working. But like, yeah, but it can work better. They're like, then why are you saying you're going to disrupt it? Like, you're coming at me with this like negative energy because you just know your way is so much better. But until somebody is willing to take that leap, we're going to kind of continue to stay in the same place.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people willing to take the leap. I think that, like, when you look into the practical use cases, I like real estate as an example because it's something I looked into pretty heavily. Like, you need a license to practice real estate in most state and everywhere, actually. I think in every state, pretty sure. And those licenses have their own process for acquiring them, and they go by certain laws by the state, and then they also go by a national law. All of these laws were made by very old people that make money off of these laws.
Indeed.
There are some things in those laws that literally will say a human is required to do this and this. Like, a human is required to sign here and do this and look at that. And if that human isn't there, then it's not real.
Can't be done.
There's a lot of that in a lot of areas where blockchain would just make it seamless for people. Like, it would, because, you know, they don't want there to not be a need for realtors anymore, in the same sense, at least. Right.
Do we need notaries at that point? If we can, the whole purpose of a notary is to have verification that another person is seeing this happen, and that person has been deemed trustworthy by another board of people. So if the trust, like you mentioned, has been deemed by the technology, then wouldn't the blockchain system be able to notarize the majority of documents that would go into something like real estate as well?
Yeah, in the sense of like how blockchain works, notaries would no longer be required. But again, it goes into the security question, I guess, of like how secure is the blockchain. And I mean, they've done a lot of research, and the consensus is it's pretty secure. Like, at a certain point, the highest levels, proof of work is pretty secure. Proof of stake even is pretty doggone secure. I think that. Oh, what did you say? You put your.
You sparked a thought on security, governmental and political security when it comes to cryptocurrency. And before you get into proof of stake, the thought process that specific entities, whether they're companies or countries, could amass the majority stake in a currency or in a blockchain so that they would have almost that centralized decision making. Is that something that people could be worried about in that sentiment?
100%. I can see that happening pretty doggone easily.
That's what it'd be like. Oh, Russ is gonna buy all the Ethereum, and then it's gonna become that's constantly.
Like, I think, okay, has it happened? Really, no, because I don't think these companies trust blockchain enough to actually put enough of their money to do that in proof of stake networks. But like, if you had a company like BlackRock, like
Absolutely.
trillions of dollars,
Yeah, we can get it done.
like, and they wanted, and they saw a proof of stake, and they're like, oh, this is real. They could put enough money, but here's the catch to that. Like, that's the thing about proof of stake is if you put that money in there and you hack the network, now you've lost all of your money. That's the thought. Like, that's why the people that are mining the blocks have a real stake in the success of the chain,
Yeah.
which I like. Right now, could there be some insane group of billionaires that are like, hey, we don't care about losing
The integrity
billions of dollars?
yeah.
Like,
And the integrity of the network.
let's just watch it burn.
Yeah.
I mean, sure. But for most cases, people don't like to lose money.
Yeah, but I think the large thought process is that if a country or a group were to identify or to take on making a specific cryptocurrency their like taking Fedcoin, the digital currency of America, and then a foreign country who has issues with America just secretly buys a whole bunch of it, they can control the economy. I think that's the constant concern where it's just like, I don't think they mind sinking trillions of dollars if they see a rival fall as a result, which is why there's always so much scarcity and concern when it comes to adopting this at a large scale. Who do we give access to this?
But that's why a government-owned chain wouldn't be public.
Heard. So what's the difference between a public and a private chain?
So a public chain is me or you, anybody can go in, and it's not owned by one person. So whoever spins up a node on the chain has a degree of ownership and ability to produce blocks which contain all of these transactions. There's nothing stipulating like anyone from around the world can just do that. Either spin up nodes in proof of work. You still need a node in proof of stake, but it's not the same reliance on power, on like actual electricity.
Heard.
So you spin up nodes all around the world, and there's no barrier to entry. In a private chain, only the people that own it spin up the nodes.
Gotcha.
So it's literally the same thing as just having a centralized
Yeah,
third party.
understood.
Right. So I think the interesting thing about what we were exploring with the energy use case is having multiple private chains owned by these different companies and then merging certain data to a public chain.
Gotcha.
That's what I think would be an actual enhancement, right? Hey, everyone has to provide these metrics, and if you don't, everyone sees it on the public chain, but you still own your private data
Absolutely.
type of thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's just it. I feel like, to your point, unfortunately, the 3.5 years of the pandemic just kind of roller coaster rode crypto and blockchain as a whole. They roller coaster rode crypto and NFT and gave blockchain a bad name in the process. What would be the steps to take or the road to blockchain becoming synonymous with trust?
I think obviously continuous adoption. Like, there's a lot of adoption and things in other countries, but like a lot in Ethiopia and these other countries that are not, some of them are third world countries, some of them second world countries, but people who need a lot of governmental reform.
Developing.
Yeah, developing countries. Right?
They don't like when we say that.
Whatever. Countries that are developing.
Indeed.
Right?
Indeed.
So these countries need a lot of reform. They end up leaning on blockchain
Yeah.
to handle that reform. And there's a bunch of valid use cases there. I think for it to become mainstream, then you have to actually replace a good portion of the government functionality with blockchain technology. And then I don't think they're really going to do that without something like a Fedcoin.
Gotcha.
So I think in other ways, yeah, it'll just keep being crypto. I think we can do things in the public like certifications and NFTs representing certifications of different types. I think that's really cool because now it's publicly verifiable. It's harder to forge, et cetera, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So those are some use cases that I think are really valid. I still want to see artists making amazing stuff with NFTs. I think that'll be really cool. I would love to see less trash projects.
Absolutely. But you won't, unfortunately. It's just, and I view myself as the barrier to entry on all things quote unquote heavy tech. I've built a blockchain before. I took a course and taught you how to go in and just write blah blah blah. Somebody probably hacked it, took all my money. Who knows, right? But I understand how, I won't say how easy, but the upstart effects to it. I've taken courses on creating NFTs. I've watched you with your project. I know that it's possible from a small scale, especially if you know or understand the right people. So for that reason, I think the barrier to entry is so low that you'll continue to see these crap projects just pop up everywhere. And it's kind of like basic economics. It's like some people will focus on selling one thing for $100.
Yep.
Some people will focus on selling 20 things for $5. And they're perfectly okay if y'all don't buy 15 of them, but they buy 1 million of the 5 things that everybody loves. And that's just kind of how. But I mean, that's art. It's just not shoved into it. Like when somebody goes and paints or chisels. Like we went to Aaliyah did an art show last December, and because it was a higher or upscale art show, there was a lot of like crazy work inside that building. You could tell the difference between the people who are just like, no, I do this because I love it, I bleed it, this is just me. And then there was just people with like endless prints of just like, hey man, it was only $20 to get up in here, so if y'all want to buy some stuff, I'm gonna make my money at the end of this. You'll always have to deal with that as a separation when it comes to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's funny, man. Like the more we're talking about this, the more that like crypto, yeah, it'll have its place in art and in games and hopefully in better use cases and adding transparency to third parties, hopefully. But we'll see. But right now, it just feels like Pokemon cards. Like it just feels like it feels like high stakes, Pokemon cards, and people are actually throwing real money into betting on which card's gonna win. Like that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate thought.
And I think this is sad a little bit, like sad for blockchain. As a real blockchain, I was actually a real fan of blockchain, and still, I like the technology. I just wish it was used for better things.
That makes sense. I just, all my hope for it becoming the thing that all new age tech television tells you it's going to be, like it just became another buzzword instead of being used for the technology or being used for the cases that it should be used on. It's just like, oh, they uploaded it to the blockchain. They're just like putting words together and they don't really mean anything. And I think the result of that Web3 digital world, nothing will be real, all those types of things. And we're already in like a version of it currently. Like we talked about how many computer generated images that we see, how much news and media that we retain from online, that we assume is real because we are in the real world and we look at our phone and assume that somebody else is showing us the real world. These are the things that I believe that blockchain can kind of validate. They could verify. If I have news sources, if I have these different pieces of value that are commonly, it's like, I feel like, especially on Twitter, I see like little parts of it that blockchain could help where there's like a running gag on Twitter about oxtails, right? And anytime they'll see like Tasty or one of those like food channels like post like, oh, here's like 4 ways to make oxtail. Every black person within like a 50-mile radius like quote tweets it, and they're just like, oxtails will kill you if you eat more than like 2 spoonfuls. Don't let them fool you. But they're doing it as a gag to say like, hey, stop letting these oxtail prices go up. Stop buying them. Stop introducing them to people. They're hard enough to get as it is. And then right underneath those posts, Twitter is just like, hey, they're lying. This is an all-going gag. They're just trying to keep the prices from going up. These are the things that we trust Twitter or whatever news sources to verify for us. But it goes back to that centralization of trust. We're trusting a central person opposed to a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. I guess final thoughts, because we're already coming up on an hour now. But final thoughts for me is blockchain relevant? I think it still is. And I think you'll see a lot of application in the general just crypto space. There'll always be a new project. There'll always be something. Can you make money? Yes. Is it going to be extremely volatile? Yes. Just be smart, play smart, enjoy yourself. Don't
do your research.
Yeah, do your research. Like,
do your
research.
Where would you send a person to do research?
Oh man,
is it YouTube?
I have a different method. I don't know. I do research on YouTube, but I also see a lot of people shilling on YouTube. Like shilling specific coins or things that they may have an interest in. There are some good YouTube channels, though, that don't. So, yeah, you can definitely go to YouTube. I like to find projects and actually read the papers behind them, but that's because I'm a nerd, and I don't think everybody's going to do that.
Absolutely not.
So, I take that with a grain of salt, but try to just listen to genuine people. Do as much research on the specific project that you can. And, yeah, you probably should read the papers and what they're about and what they're doing and how they're utilizing the tech, and actually see and verify what are they actually doing, real projects, places, what are those real projects, and then also the general reputation. That's how I research projects that I like and I'll go into. And I don't have specific coins that I would shill either. Anyone who's kind of just shilling specific coins outside of the perspective of, hey, this is where I'm putting stuff, but don't do what I do type of thing. Be wary of that. That's what I'll say.
And it kind of goes. I will, if I have anything to do with it, I will remind everybody of this every single episode. Read. If you don't like reading, figure out how to like reading. Yeah. Because unless you can decipher these things for yourself by written word, as you can see, things will constantly, people will shill stuff to you that whether they're pumping and dumping or whether they believe these different things. But until you can read it for yourself to make your own decision on it, you'll constantly be at the mercy of another person's information.
Yeah. At a certain depth of knowledge, you just run out of videos.
Facts.
And then there's only books. And then if you run out of books, then you end up, you should know enough to be the person to write the book.
Absolutely.
But you don't want to have to wait on people to just make videos or podcasts about stuff. That's my general thought. As you know, we talk about that in the last podcast. But yeah, that's any closing statements or thoughts before we end it. This was the first live. I think it went pretty good.
Me too. Absolutely.
I'm excited. I feel good about this.
You look excited.
I am excited. I was definitely a little nervous.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous.
It went well. My nerves were more or less for the editing later. Like, it's just like, what if I mess up? But like, at this point, it's cool.
It'll be fine.
In the comments, please feel free if you have any suggestions. The next episode should be out, or this episode you'll be watching on Monday the 31st. Monday the 31st. So that gives us some time. You'll get some clips ahead of time. And
wait, actually, for this one, because we went live.
Oh, they'll get it.
They should have it because they have it. Yeah, they got it.
Text messages that they have it right now.
Yeah, they got it.
Hey man, if y'all want to hear about something else, just hit us. What am I trying to be extra for, right?
Yeah, we're still gonna release the best parts, funniest parts, all that cool stuff. But you all should have access. Let us know if you all like the live format or
Monday
like the recorded and release format, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, we appreciate y'all.
Absolutely.
Holla at you.